The Stephen Colbert show is dead. The Stephen Colbert mode of entertainment transmission is dead. You're not going to see any more Colbert-esque types of shows because they're dead. Nobody really liked Colbert. Nobody felt this warmth. Nobody felt it. It was motivated and primarily fueled by this anti-Trump TDS, this fixation, this almost like this obsession. The same goes for Kimmel and others as well. Now, I want you to think about something. I want you to understand that we have a patient here, and the patient has either died or is on the way to cessation, okay? And there are many, many factors. Each one of them adds synergistically to the demise. It's not one factor, it's a lot of things. Whenever somebody dies, whenever someone, older person, somebody dies, specifically, maybe of natural causes, or disease, invariably, at the end, there's organ failure. And I love it. It's not a joke, but it's like, well, no, duh. Or it was a lack of oxygen because we are an obligate aerobe, as a great Sherwin Nuland said. But what causes it is one thing, but the cause of that is multiple. It's concatenated. It's layered. So Colbert and others, it's at the end of a trajectory. It's the end of a model. The late night model, just put this one layer, one film, so to speak, one stratum. The late night model is over. Why? This thing you're watching right now is called the internet. There's no such thing as late night. Nobody knows what that means. It's anachronistic. Late night. DVR? Set your TV? TV? What? It almost has nothing to do with Stephen Colbert or anybody else on the matter. It's a different time. It's just different. Things are weird. Do you know what's interesting? Do you know? Have you ever heard these podcasts of? It's called True Crime. Normally, it's like two teenage girls who are giddy almost over serial killing, and then like they came home and like there was blood on the carpet. You know, I think, what is this? It's childish, but it's serialized. It is a throwback to when radio was theater of the mind. A serialized, kind of like The Shadow, or granted, this is true life, but it's the same thing. Do you understand what I'm telling you? We are going back to that. Don't ever think. Some things are repeated, some themes. Where people love the heyday of radio, you listen to the Lone Ranger and Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. This is before my time, but I remember hearing of this and Jack Benny and this and that and The Shadow and it was, well, that's what this is. That's what this is. And a lot of folks are listening to it now on Spotify or Apple or whatever it is, and they're listening to audio. They're listening to radio. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course you do. They're listening to radio. When you hear Joe Rogan or whoever it is, you're listening to radio. You're listening to an audio version of this. So radio is not dead. AM or the mean. I'm not saying that's dead by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm saying the modality, the means of transmission, that's different. But look at what we're going to now. Prior to podcasting, there was no such thing as, there was that NPR weird, I don't even know what that thing is. Fresh air. I'm Terry Gross. You know that sweaty balls routine that they did on SNL really captures that kind of a breathy, kind of a that artsy fartsy sound. So forgive this belabored elliptical explanation. Some things are repeating. Okay, so remember, when you hear podcasts, somebody says, I like podcasts, that's radio. That is serialized audio. Audio books, sort of the same, but not really. Okay, so understand that. Because people say, well, it's all changing. Yes, it's going back. Young people are saying, I like this. I don't need radio all the time. I don't need, the thump of music. Let me, okay, got that? So the idea of the late night, remember, in my generation, at the end of the day, at the end of the night, this was really something. Jack Parr, who was a genius, Johnny Carson in his own right, Steve Allen, all of these late night, and then the Tomorrow Show, and the whole notion of late night. There was a time, kids, when radio shows would end, TV shows would end like, 11:30 or 12, whatever the time was. And they would sign off. You saw the Indian, that test pattern. There'd be this, the pledge of the Star-Spangled Banner, national anthem. We had this guy years ago named Seeds from the Sower. And he came from Alpharetta, Georgia or someplace. And it was the end. And it would go the sound pattern. We don't do that anymore. Ted Turner changed that. So late night had this idea. There was this, wow, this is late. And it was late, the late show, the late, late show. It would say that today this is anachronistic because we don't make any distinction between early morning, late. Everything's 24 hours. Not only that, you have appointment on your phone, on your whatever. So the time meant nothing. Late night meant nothing. And if you want to see really wild stuff, watch Tim Dillon. You want to see something. And if you want something to fit your particular level of either politics, the degree of saltiness, the degree of... It's interesting to see people like Howard Stern trying to figure out what's hip today, because what made him hip then was when there were barriers. People would listen to him during the day and say, did you hear how close he almost came to going over the edge, so to speak? Well, there is no edge anymore. There's no more edge. It doesn't exist. There's no more edge. You got it? It doesn't exist. No more edge. Capiche? No more edge. Now, what's interesting also to realize in a couple of other aspects of this is the following. When Trump came in, Trump changed everything. Trump changed our discussion, our political discourse, the way we handled things, the way he changed everything, our sensibilities. The people who, for the most part, represented this kind of a late night world entertainment, these tend to be lefties. Lefties think that everybody thinks the way they do. And to be fair, righties, if there is such a thing, think the same thing. The righties, I like that, aren't in charge of late night. The lefties were. And in that weird, that circular firing squad world of Hollywood, TV entertainment, the lefties control the programming. The lefties got the grants from USAID. The lefties got all the various monies that were dark money. I mean, they got money from appropriations you never heard of in order to change collectively the way people thought. They wanted you to think collectively the way you thought. They wanted you to, how do I say this? They wanted you to change your mindset. So all of these, I mean, these are, this was critical. So anyway, there's Colbert, Kimmel. Who else? I don't even know. I'm going to remember. Kimmel, this Seth Meyers. Nobody even knows Seth Meyers is there. Nobody even knows he's there. It's like we had a guy in growing up in Tampa. He was the public defender. Nobody even knew he was there. I always do this thing. I always say the monkey's dead, the show's over. His name was Judge Lucky. And when he left office, people said, we had a what? He always ran out of posts. We had a public defender? Who is he? Never knew. Guy was there for 25 years. And when he was thrown out of, when he lost, he said, the monkey's dead, the show's over. Okay, fine. So, to make a long story very, 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 very short, this is the most important thing in the world. This is what's critical. This is what's critical. All of this happened at once. You had the ascendancy of Trump, but also people became habituated to it. You know how people are insulin resistant? Well, people are lefty, Colbert resistant, or whatever it is. We don't have the same sensibilities. And when you're in a world where you're hanging around people who think this is great. Hey, I've got a new Trump joke for you. Hey, that's great. Let's do like SNL. After a while, it's not that the jokes aren't funny, but we're moving on. It loses its thing. I mean, how many, even towards the end, how many Biden jokes can you do about him being senescent or a dotard or what have you? So anyway, at the end of all this, CBS said, listen, we're not making money of this. Let me promise you one thing. If you could teach a cat how to fart and it got numbers and ratings, you would have cat fart TV 24/7. These people, bottom line, all the way from Les Moonves, who's he's in Siberia now, but they don't care. So add to this next layer, it's not profitable. It's not worth it. They've got a band. They've got this. They've got union. They turned the lights on. Oh, my God. You got the stagehands, the grips, the guy who holds the cue cards. All of this. Like, what are we doing? It's expensive. It's not. And the shareholders are saying, what is this anachronism? And not only that, it's just. And then Trump, for whatever reason, is making people say, hey, this sucks or you suck or whatever it is. And people were kind of looking back and saying, you know what, this is kind of suck. Not because it wasn't funny, but because the time has changed. Let's move along. There's a lot of other stuff that's going on. Certain things really also don't age well. The vaccine dancing and all of that stuff, that stuck with people. You realize, oh, I see. He's propaganda. Right. Precisely. Right. He's propaganda. Okay? He's propaganda. And then, for whatever reason, and this is another layer, this is the next layer, things just end. You may not remember this, but I remember there was a time when people wore bell bottoms, calling them flared leg or bell bottoms. And then one day, there was no more bell bottoms. I don't know if it was a Tuesday at one particular time, but they said, no more bell bottoms. Disco was great to some people. I mean, it was better than, it's not what people think. And then one day they said, no more of that. Okay. It's just some things end. And when things end, it's harder to see when things end. What's different? One of the benefits, they say, of getting older is that you're able to see and to judge. You're able to see and to judge what's missing, what's not here anymore. You're able to see and to judge, like, ooh, this is gone. You know, there was this thing years ago. I think I've told you this. There was this wonderful thing that when you would go to a doctor's office, they had these. They didn't have you didn't have a phone. You had a magazine, and you were a slave. They didn't even have TV sets. You would sit there and whatever they had. Nobody brought magazines. Whatever the doctor had. One guy had Gem Cutters Quarterly. I'll never forget this. I said, what the hell is a gem cutter? And why is there a magazine on it? Anyway, so they had that, yachting. And he said, oh, for the love of God, help me. Sports Illustrated, anything. So they had this thing called highlights. And highlights were for kids. And at the end, they had these pictures. Goofus and Gallant and all that stuff. But at the end, they had these two pictures. What's different between this picture and that picture? What's missing in this one, or what's in it? What does this one have? This one doesn't. However you want to look at it, half empty, half full. There was a study recently that took younger people, and they said, what are they good at in terms of cerebral acuity? And one thing they were very good at was they were very good at kind of like that whack-a-mole stuff. If there was something, they could respond accordingly like that. They also, interestingly enough, very interesting, what they also could do, which was kind of sort of neat, was they noticed that older people may not have been as good as that, but they were very good at seeing what's the difference between this picture and that picture. What's the difference between this situation and that situation? Meaning judgment. So a lot of us are looking at this and we're saying, I know what's happened. I know what's changed. I know how the landscape has changed. But they don't. Because when something works, believe me when I'm telling you this, anybody in the media will tell you, when something works, they will push it to the point of exhaustion because they don't know any better. Because the real creative people in media are done or dead. And the people who were raised on something, give me an example. I think I mentioned this. CBS News. You would think this is the end of civilization. I'm reading these funereal, lugubrious eulogia. Goodbye, CBS. Thank you, old friend. CBS Radio News. Top of the hour, bottom of the hour. What are you talking about? In the days of Murrow. Well, there is no Murrow anymore. Yes, but don't you understand? And they get nostalgic. Next layer. Auto-mourn. This is very important to learn. Little background. I remember you reading when Asperger's first made its way. When Asperger's was first, interesting thing happened. Very interesting thing. Kids, or some people, said, I don't know how to respond to certain things. I don't know what laughter is. How do I talk to people? How do I, in a conversation, how do I make eye contact? What do I say? And sometimes they would go to movies just to see how people would react. Our society, people have been so, interestingly enough, so marginalized and so kept from human interaction. They really don't know how to respond anymore. They cannot respond individually. They must always respond in a group. What's trending? Not what are you feeling? No, what's trending? Tell me I'll tell you what's trending. So whenever something would happen, they would say, what's going on? What's going on? Colbert is leaving. What does that mean? That's sad. Why is that sad? It's sad because it's a piece of history. It is? Yeah, okay. Would you like to join the funereal, this morbid, kind of like the New Orleans jazz? Yes, I would. Thank you. So then auto-mourn came in. This patellar, Pavlovian, reflexive response to something that people felt they knew, or that people how do I say this? That people wanted you to believe they really felt. And they will do it. Give a perfect example. Somebody dies. It doesn't matter who. I'm not even going to say it. Just maybe I'm a musician, the bass player for Thin Lizzy. I'm just throwing that. I have no idea. People will say, "Oh, no words," because they're watching TVs and say, "Is this what mourning looks like?" Yes. No words. Heartbroken, crestfallen. I'll never smile again. R.I.P. And they got the name of the person, the graphic and his name and the date of the year of his born. And it's kind of this performative, kind of choreographed response. It's auto mourn. And then there are people who, when somebody does die, I know people in the business, there's one guy in particular, he has a picture, he was in a radio business. He has a picture with everybody who's ever come through. You name the person he's been through. Ozzy Osbourne's got a picture of them. Ted Bundy's got a picture of them. Anybody. Name anybody. Typhoid Mary's got a picture. So whenever they died, he goes, no words. And they always put the picture of them with somebody saying, see, I met them. I am somebody. See, I knew them. I knew them. Wow. Well, that's kind of what's going on now with Colbert. People are saying, goodbye, dear friend. Why am I crying about this? I don't know. Everybody else is. It's auto-mourn. It's performance-based. It is choreographed. It is see. Okay. You see where this works? You see where this works? You see what happens? So what you're doing right now is people just, all of the folks who were meeting together, and you got Letterman, and Letterman got out just at the right amount, just at the right time. Because Letterman didn't go really left until the end. And by the way, this also goes for right. The reason why Johnny Carson was so good and others is because of the fact that you didn't know what his politics were. It's just good business. It's not because you're trying to keep, it makes no sense. There was a time, believe it or not, where people kept this stuff quiet. But now, ever since Trump, it merged. Remember, there were people, I don't know if people, maybe they did, who didn't like FDR were disinvited for Thanksgiving, or who liked FDR, or Nixon, or anybody else. As of recent, everybody knows they were kicked out. We've still been defriended by people, I guess, because they feel like I have some kind of an affiliation to Trump. I don't know. I'm not even sure. So that's what this is. So you see this end of, goodbye, Stephen, thank you. It's not the end of talk. There's Rogan and Dylan. Candace Owens. Candace Owens is bigger than anything. Candace Owens, on the update, the lead up, when Candace is waiting to go on and people are just talking, more people are watching that than watched Colbert for the month. The numbers are out of this world. It's a new, even little old me. More people, you are watching me now, this, than some major day parts of CNN. I'm not kidding you. You can't believe how few people. Anyway, I'm not trying to discount what I'm doing, but so they're going crazy. Same thing with CBS Radio News. Goodbye, old friend. Wait a minute. I've got more news than I've ever had. I've got news I want. I curate my own news. I don't go to Fox. I don't go to CNN. And I sure as hell don't go to the top of the hour radio news. That's not what I do. That's not where I go. If you're listening to that, fine. It's not the end of news. It's like when people say, the families don't eat together. That's true, but nobody stopped eating. It's the modality of it. It's the form. You're right about that. Maybe it was different. Maybe whatever it was. And I don't know why This is so difficult for people to understand this. And I see a lot of it as the people in my generation, in particular, or whatever this. They think that everything is the way they had it. I knew Rush Limbaugh personally, work with him, and have nothing but respect for what he did. I don't know how Rush Limbaugh would do today. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's of the right timbre, the right volume. I don't know if he's profane enough. I really don't know. People turned up the heat when it comes to political thought, and I don't know. He probably would do very, very well, but I don't know. I don't know. First of all, the subject matter, Reagan and all this kind of stuff. There are people, I'm not going to mention their names, but they're on Fox News, and they're still living in the 80s. They're living in the 80s. Lower government, trickle down. Newt Gingrich is like, what is this? What are we stuck in some time warp? Newt Gingrich. What, is Wendell Willkie not available? What are we doing here? But they're nostalgic. They can't get past that. They can't remember. There are people who say, I remember when I had a transistor radio. Well, yeah, but we don't have transistor radios anymore. Yeah, but I remember. Well, why are you bringing that up? I don't know. I'm just waxing nostalgic. Well, stop it. It's ridiculous. I don't. It's. They had this thing one time here in New York City. There was a time when the Jewish, or really the Eastern European, but typically the Jewish delicatessen was, oh my God, there were so many. And now it's pretty much Katz. And now with the Carnegie doggone, it's maybe Katz's Deli, and that's it. Oh, there's a few others. There's a few Sarge's and Barney Green, but the delis, not the old deli. Okay. And what happened was people's food, people weren't eating as heavy, or people don't want to eat like, pastrami and a matzo ball and a knish, and it's just heavy. Or whatever, or the time has changed. I don't know. Nobody got rid of eating. Nobody got rid of restaurants. It's a particular style. It was a particular modality. Drive-in restaurants. Drive-ins. Nobody wants to go to a drive-in. Nobody wants to eat in their car. I don't know why. It just doesn't work anymore. Certain things just don't work. Stephen Colbert, sometimes certain aspects of radio or TV don't work. 6 o'clock news. Weather. This is my favorite of them all. Weather. I've got more apps than you can imagine on my phone. I don't care about Doppler weather. I don't care about whether the low pressure is coming in off of the Adirondacks. Who cares? They're living in a time. They're almost waxing atavistic to a time when you really didn't know about the weather. I mean, you didn't know. You didn't know. Is it going to rain tomorrow? I don't know. Better tune in at 6. Why? Because there's no place to call. I don't know. There was nothing. You had to tune in at 6 to find out the freaking weather. You didn't know this. It was so bad. We used to have, you might remember this. We had this number you could call up to find the time of day. Who the hell calls this thing to find out the time of day? What time is it? And the temperature is. So we've changed. We don't do this anymore. We're not of that ilk. And when you do a postmortem on Colbert, it was layered. Bottom line is it's not making money. And if it doesn't make money, believe me, if it makes money, it does. But also, what you're doing right now is you are seeing something. There is more information than ever. I never, ever, ever want to go back to a time when we had only 3 networks, and I had to hear their version of what's going on. I'm able to hear. If I want to hear what's going on in Iran or the Middle East, I'm not going to listen to anything on American cable news. No way. You might as well forget it. I mean, you might as well forget it. It comes straight from the Pentagon. What are we talking about? It's not going to. It might or may not be true. I want to hear somebody else give me their view. Colbert's not going to do that. During the time of varied health scares, people had alternative theories as to means of application. You're not going to hear that there. Means of application of palliative care. You're not going to hear that there. But yeah, what they are doing, and they are pushing, And even despite the fact that the Democrats had this post-mortem recently, they're still pushing this crazy transgender whatever. And that is just sheer unmitigated lunacy. Unmitigated lunacy. And that is never going to work at all, period, under any stretch of the imagination. So going back to where I originally started, Stephen Colbert is nothing. It doesn't matter. They're trying to make this the end of something. They're going to try to make this by virtue of the fact, listen, if you're going out, don't you want to say goodbye, old friend? Goodbye, old friend. Nobody even knows about this. Because put your money on the next generation. Put your money on where this is going on down the line. Don't look at it right now. Look at the conveyor belt. There's people coming up here. They might be younger kids, but very soon, before you know it, they're going to be old enough to make it to pay attention. And if you ask them where they're getting their news from, it's not the 6 o'clock news. Now, you can either ignore that or you can pay attention to it. That's it. And what happened here? There are more newsmen than you can imagine. There are more news people. When I see these folks for like public TV, hey, we're having our fundraiser, and if you send $50, you can get a tote bag. I say, what the hell are you talking about? Great performances. I don't want to see great performances. You do understand I don't need you anymore, right? Well, we have, don't you want to see American experience? Not really. Or I'll see it someplace else. Maybe you can put it online. Or I don't need this. They don't understand it. It's over. Sesame Street, Electric Company, all this, it's over with. It's just William F. Buckley, Firing Line. You can watch old ones. It's a different time. It's different. But conversation's not going away. News isn't going away. Entertainment's not going anywhere. I'm telling you right now. And I don't know what it's like. If I had, I swear to you, somebody said, you know what? If you really wanted me to make TV come alive, put a camera, go to somebody who does some kind of a news program, put a camera on that set, and that's it. Put a camera on Candace and watch this. That's it. No set, no nothing, just put a camera or just do a live feed of her show. Now, it's going to be an hour, going to be an hour and 5. It's not going to start at a particular time. Whatever. You can edit it a little bit. That's what I would do. They're already there. They already like it. Why are you trying to recreate the wheel? Why are you rediscovering? Why? What are you doing? News, sports, and weather. We'll be back after this commercial message. Nobody wants that. What is this stuff? What's the first thing you do when you subscribe to a paywall? Get rid of the commercials. I don't want to see this stuff. News, sports, and weather. Well, how did the Yankees do last night? I know exactly how they did. I was watching the game. I got my phone. I'll tell you how they did. I'll tell you everything. Well, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow, Dave? I'll tell you right now. I got the weather right here. What are you talking about? Well, here's something. Story is a woman fell into this is a terrible story here. A woman fell into an open manhole cover. I got 15 versions of it. Which one would you like? It's like they don't know they're not the only. They still think they're the only time. They still think they're living in the 60s. Or it's Huntley and Brinkley. And Stephen Colbert thinks that somehow we're going to miss him. Nobody's going to miss him. Nobody. Because the level of entertainment, if you want Trump stuff, I'll give you the best people available. I'll give you something. You want profane late? I'll give you the best profanity. I'll give you whatever you want. And I mean to tell you, some of these folks, and they may not know what they're doing, you might not think they're doing, they're better than anything you've ever seen. They're great. So Stephen Colbert, you were so profoundly obnoxious. Number one is Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel has he became part of a cult, part of this TDS anti or whatever. And most people, not everybody is as MAGA as you think. Believe me. So for you going after Trump, it's overkill because the majority of people who would even be affected by that. And by the way, most people, I hate to say it also, the Trump joke, it's over. It doesn't, it was funny at first. Even Trump impersonators. I can't do the voice, but that one guy, Austin, whatever his face on SNL, he was the first one to show you how to do Trump. See, Alec Baldwin, who was very talented, couldn't even do it. Who was doing this thing where he's blowing his, I don't know what he was trying to do. The bottom line is simply this. It's over. Stephen Colbert, it's over. He had a nice run, it's over. It's over. And now he's trying, well, I'm going to be writing, I'm going to be a script writer. You're not going to write anything. The same way Jon Stewart, biggest dumbass ever, who went off and he left to run some petting zoo in Jersey. What the hell's the matter with you? Then he said, "Oh no, I'm gonna be a film, an auteur. I'm gonna be some film." Remember this? He was gonna produce some Indian film that 3 people saw, and they happened to be on the set when it occurred. These people, they don't know. He left the Daily Show right before Trump. The dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's like David Caruso leaving NYPD. He said, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" Or Shelley Long leaving Cheers. Like, what's the matter with you? What, Joe and the Volcano? I don't understand why people do it. But anyway, Colbert, he's done. And by the way, what's interesting too is, have you seen now? Here's Jon Stewart comes back. He looks like Methuselah. It's like, what's going on here? There's nothing the kids love more than some white-haired, hoary, venerable grandpa-looking dude who you say, yeah, but in his day, well, what's he doing? Yeah, but in his day, he's the voice of, well, in his day, they forgot you. If you're gone for 3 minutes, you're gone. Samantha Bee, anybody? Remember that one? Oh, yeah. What happened to her? I don't know. And the only way they keep you in any kind of focus is if you say something stupid, like Chelsea Handler. But I digress. I'm being extremely desultory. So you know what? Stephen Colbert, beat it. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Nobody cares. You're a dime a dozen. You ran that TDS stuff into the ground. And you, by the way, you actually created more Trump fans, because he's now, no matter what the polls say, he's still there. You're gone. And Kimmel, you're next too. And don't think for a moment that everything in Hollywood and entertainment is being completely crushed and redistributed and re-evaluated by a lot of people far smarter than you or I. The bottom line is all about this. Not money, this. All right, friends, I love you. Please do me a favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And I've got some questions for you coming up. And I want you to comment as you see fit.